Should be live now. Hopefully there we go, there's a notification just to prove it. Sorry for the slightly late start. We are being held back a bit by Google not letting me into the account, so it's all fun stuff. But we are here for round 8 in Italy. But I don't really know what to expect from this race, to be honest. I don't know who's going to win, because it's been quite close the last few races, but with such a small grid today, that kind of makes me think I want to race. I would think that maybe something's going to happen. I don't know. Whenever there's a smaller grid in ALR, we always end up with like not that many people finishing, obviously. But it is raining in quali, and that could change quite a bit, in all fairness. Hope it's not raining in the race. That would probably kill any kind of racing we'd have, but yeah, maybe we could see a slightly strange grid order here with the rain. It's also going to completely destroy any kind of tyre strategy that might be going on, because we finally get some cars leaving the pits, probably with a couple of setup tweaks to adjust to the rain to see who's first on the outlap. It's going to be Jonah, followed by his teammate Salt, and Rudy going to be third on track. So Haas getting out very quickly here onto the track. And probably going to see some slipstreaming here at Monza, would be my guess. But they do seem to be the only team trying it at the moment. So to be honest, I don't know what the league's rules are on slipstreaming. As we have a Mercedes off already, it's Jim has spun at turn 5. He's looked like he's kept his wing out of any walls, so he shouldn't have too much damage, which will be all good. Just quickly head back to the Hasses, who have actually spread apart a little bit, so maybe not going for the slipstream, as Jonah does now bolt for his lap just on the penultimate straight there. He's going to run into Parabolica, see how his exit is. It's a bit, he doesn't know what gear to take, a bit squirmish on the throttle, and I have a feeling that's going to cost him time all the way down the straight already to begin with. So here we go for the first lap of the session. We're going to ride on board. He's going to brake about halfway between the 150 and 100 metre mark. Well, inside locking there, but still gets a decent line through turns 1 and 2. 4th gear on acceleration, 5th gear. Wheel spin. And we already have Polhouse out of the session. He's crashed at the exit of Parabolica, so that will be last place for Polhouse on the grid. Coming back to Jonah here, he's going to come into the Lesmo. He's a bit wide, missing the apex there, but a bit more stable than we saw before. Braking just at the 50 here, he's going to use all of the inside curb he can, use the outside as well. And it looks like a decent middle sector so far from the Haas driver. He had a bit of wheel spin coming out of turn 2, but I'm not sure how much that will really affect his lap, considering everyone else will probably be struggling too. It's a bit careful through Ascari. Obviously it's his first lap, so you would expect just a careful lap in general, but but he's now going to come up to the line, and it's going to be the first time. It's a 28.3, so he followed across the line by his teammate who does a 28.2, and then Rudy 28.5, and then the Ferrari Skulls, he did a 29.4. Jonas will be next across the line. He had a bit of an oversteer moment on the exit of Parabolica, puts him P5 at 130.3. Then he's followed across the line by Jim, who goes up to 5th, and Harm will cross the line into 4th. We now have the other Williams of Immortal here. Is going to come up to the line and see what kind of time he's able to produce here. It's a 31.4, puts him 8th for the minute, and it's going to be Tal Piz next to complete a lap. Should I follow him down the penultimate straight here as he heads into Parabolica, braking just on the end of the green concrete. He's hit the apex quite nicely there. Let's see as he gets the power down very smoothly. What's he going to be? Across the lights will be a 28.0, but it's a provisional pole. And Sepsky now going to round the final corner, closely followed by Brad, who's on an out lap. So he's most likely going to be the next one. But I'd expect a few of these drivers. Sepsky goes P1 with the 27.8. I expect most of these drivers to be going for multiple laps consecutively. As Jonah's invalidated, we also have Rudy who's on a lap here, so he should be the next driver to cross the line, but he's had oversteer twice on the exit there. The yellow flag, someone in pits. It's Jonah there, and Rudy going to cross the line just slightly down on his own time there, so no improvement there for Rudy. The Ferrari comes into the pits. Is Salt going to pit? Yes, he is. Jim is going to stay out. Let's see what his second lap is looking like. Salt apparently still has the fastest lap, and I think that's a glitch. Unfortunately, we're going to have to be stuck with that for the rest of this session, but Jim does slightly improve there. We've had a spin now. It's Harm coming out of the Parabolica, and that there is an interesting pit entry. What's going on? Right, okay. And I think Bread's come back into the pits and retired. And Tal Piz has gone to set another lap. He's going to put him on provisional pole, 27.5. So good improvement there from the McLaren driver. Let's see if Sepsky can respond. Just coming through Parabolica now, looking nice, sticking to that drier line. Quite high gear there. It's not helping his revs out, and he's going to pit. So probably not improving there. Rudy has invalidated his lap, and he's weaving a lot on the stretch to try and get some temps into the tyres. And he is followed by Raleigh, who's on an out lap. So we'll just watch Raleigh start his next lap, as I think there won't be an improvement here from Rudy, at least, as there's not. Actually, let's see what Jim is able to do. He's invalidated, so there'll be no improvement from him. Jonas is on track though, coming through the final corner. Let's see what he's able to do with this lap. Is this a big moment on the exit Parabolica, and he's going to pit as a result. Let's see, Immortal also coming through the final corner, also invalidated. So it will be Tal Piz the next driver to set a lap. And we're on board with him as he comes through the second sector split. He lifts off there, he's 12 seconds down, so probably just a second warm-up lap there, or maybe even an in-lap. As the next driver on track who's on a lap will be Rudy, as there's a Salt completely skipping the second chicane there. Rudy coming through the second Lesmo, not quite using all of the inside curb there, but shouldn't matter too much. I'd have thought probably helps him get on the power a bit earlier, because he can point his car straighter. As he slightly misses, he's cut Ascari, so that is another invalidation there. He missed the apex of the first part of Ascari, and that running wide for the second part, he just invalidates. So no time here from Rudy. Let's see who's next. We have Raleigh on a lap. Raleigh just coming down the penultimate straight now towards Parabolica. Quite brave on the brakes there, slightly later than we've seen other people go, but it's not looked like it's gone too badly for him. It's just on the power a bit there, bit of oversteer, but everyone's been struggling, so shouldn't lose him too much. He goes for a 29.7. That's only 10th place as it stands, out of the 13 drivers we have here at the moment. So not the greatest lap there from Rally. Then Harm is on an out lap, so it will be Jonah who's next to set a lap as he just comes through the Lesmos there. He's run quite wide on the first Lesmo. He's hit the second Lesmo quite nicely there to make up for it. And let's see what his sector split is looking like as he comes across the line now. He's about a tenth and a half up, so it's looking good at the moment for Jonah as he does quite a nice line there. Lucky not to get invalidation there through Ascari actually, and loses the back end a bit through the middle part, so maybe lost a fair amount of time there, but hopefully it's not too big and he can still improve. As he's double upshifts out of Parabolica and he loses a lot of time there. It helps his traction, but he loses a lot of time from doing it as he improves by 4/10 there, up into third place with 28.0. As Rudy crosses the line, goes P2 with a 27.8, still 3/10 off of the current provisional pole sitter Tao Piz, but that was quite a large improvement there from Rudy, so good signs from him at the moment. Let's see now, it's Jim going to be next across the line. He's invalidated. Harm, however, has not, so we'll watch him as he comes out the final corner. It's like being on an ice rink there, absolutely skating. But comes across the line now. It's going to be a 27.9, but some P4 behind Sepsky there, just ahead of Jonah. So very close times here, only 9 thousandths between Jonah and Harm at the moment. There's a big lock up into turn 1, but he still makes the apex, so fair enough. Going to be Sepsky next to cross the line. He's quite a way behind. There's almost a gap forming on track there between the back of the train and the front of it, as everyone's kind of grouping together on the same part of the track. It looks like Rudy might have run out of fuel there in the middle sector. Now let's see as Sepsky comes into the Parabolica how it's looking for him. Again, he's gone for the traction, but still managed to lose the back end slightly in 6th gear. But he's going to cross the line now. 27.8 moves him up into P2 very briefly before Jonah beats him with a 27.5, putting him just behind Tao Piz there. As we have, I think that's Jonas crossing the line, moves up to P10 with a 28.7, puts himself ahead of Skulzy. And next Salt, who's invalidated, followed by Rudy, who has run out of fuel and coming into the pits. Harm has invalidated, so I'm assuming he's going to be coming into the pits. He does. And Immortal has also invalidated, but I don't know if he's coming into the pits or not. No, he's staying out, so Immortal will go for another lap. I'm not sure if that's really the line you want to be taking though. Skulzy on a lap here, so is Sepsky, and Jonah going for another lap, so quite a good few drivers still just doing lap after lap after lap, and that kind of suggests that they're not expecting too much rain in the race, because a lot of these guys are coming in and removing their tyres. Well, sorry, changing their tyres, as it's a good last sector there from Sepsky, but not quite good enough. Only P3 at the moment. He's cut the first corner, however, so there'll be no improvement this lap. Salt just coming through the final corner now. There's a bunch of guys pitting to probably put on some fresh inters. And Salt's not pitting, so he's going to complete the lap. It's going to be a 27.9, good enough for 5th place. So Haas doing quite well here, currently in P2 and 5. And Immortal will be the next driver to complete a lap. He's weaving down these straights. It's only losing him time as he gets on the grass and has to lift off. So hopefully this wasn't a serious lap. It was only an out lap or something. But well, it's not an out lap, but it's a second tyre warm-up lap, because you wouldn't really want to weave on the straights on your main lap, in all honesty. Let's see as he comes into turn 1 here. lock up on the outside, but he's going to cut turn 1 somehow anyway, so he's locked up and still managed to cut the corner, which is quite unfortunate there, but that means there'll be no improvement from Immortal. Scorsese just coming through with an invalidated lap at Ascari. Rally right in front of him on an outlap, however, not really looking like he's planning on getting out of the way. Sepsky pits, sorry. Meaning that it would be Salt next to cross line. Actually, Salt's run out of fuel and is letting through Jim, who is on a lap. So watch Jim as he comes through Ascari here. Yeah, not too bad. Bit of oversteer on exit, but it was very careful anyway. Now he's going to come down to the Parabolica, braking on the edge of that green concrete. And again, short shifting up into 6th, but getting on the throttle just a little bit too much, causing oversteer. But he's going to cross the line now. It's going to be a 28.2, good enough for 7th place. And just kind of showing how close some of the field is here. The fact that the top 6 are covered by about 4/10, and then you've kind of got a gap to Jim, then another gap to Immortal, and the gap between Immortal in 8th and Scorsese in 11th is less than a 10th, so less than half a 10th even. So that's pretty crazy, to be honest, as Jim will definitely not be improving on that lap at the moment, as Rudy now starts a flying lap. Just right on board as we're coming towards the end of the session here. Braking for turn 1, right as close to the 100 metre mark as he could get. Still making turn 1 nicely in turn 2. Bit of unevenness coming out of turn 2, so car getting away from him a bit. But he's managed to hold it now through turn 3. Small corrections on the wheel coming to turn 4 now. Braking just on the concrete on the right there, grey concrete. And just taking a very nice line there through turn 4, not using the curb. Obviously the wet curb isn't really fun to drive, but he's completely missed the first Lesmo there. It's not gone well for him at all. He's nearly lost the car into the wall there. Good save there, though, from the Williams driver as he comes through the second Lesmo. Also not that great. As now on the run down towards Ascari chicane. Hello Boomer, wet weather everywhere. Oh, that was very, very careful through Parabolica, but it doesn't need to be too aggressive. As Polehouse explains to Boomer how he ended up in the wall. And just crossing the line here, Rudy, not an improvement. I think that was quite apparent that it wasn't going to be an improvement, but nonetheless he's going to go for another lap here. He definitely has time, but this will be his final run of the session, as we actually have it's Jonah invalidating, but will make another lap. Sepsky should make another lap just about. Talpiz coming to end a lap and should have another one as well as he comes through the Parabolica. Let's see, he used 5th gear and has probably better traction than a lot of the guys using 6th gear did, so that's quite good for him as he improves by a 10.5. That's to 27.3 as he goes for his final run. We're going to have Salt here across the line, 3.5 improvement, but doesn't improve his position, unfortunately. I think that's because it was an outlap, in all honesty. But everyone now on their final run as the clock reaches 0. The first driver to cross the line will be the Williams of Rudy, just right on board for the last part of his lap. As he gets very close to the grass on the left there, but now onto the dry line coming into Parabolica. Not the best turn in. He had a bit of understeer in the entry. A bit of oversteer on the throttle and exit, and he's going to pit. He's going to abandon his lap, so there will be no improvement from Rudy. It will be Jonas next to complete a lap, so coming out of the final corner here. Very, very close, but it's a 3/10 improvement, but it's in P7. As Scorsese goes up to P9 with his half a second improvement, and It's going to be Jonah with no position improvement there, and we're going to go on board with Tal Piz as he rounds the final corner, and he is going to complete his lap despite not being under any threat, but he improves by half a second to a 26.9 to take a pretty convincing pole here, unless Salt can do anything about it. Salt quite a way up, but it's just not quite enough. P2 only for the Haas driver. That's a 2-3 for Haas, as Salt only about 2/10 off of Tal Piz in the end, so just a little bit more and it could have worked out for him, but unfortunately not going to happen here today. Good performance from Haas overall though, and we're just waiting for Sepsky, who's getting wheeled back into his garage, and that will conclude qualifying. Hopefully we have a slightly drier race, or a completely dry race would be even nicer, but let's not curse anything, as Tal Piz here on pole by 2/10, and then Salt P2 half a second ahead of his teammate who's in P3, Sepsky P4 with Rudy P5 just under a second off the pole time, Harm just over a second off the pole time in P6, with Jonas, Rally, Jim and Scorsy rounding out the top 10. Ava, the only driver to complete a lap who starts outside the top 10 with Polehouse, who crashed on his outlap at Parabolica, and Bread, who did not set, he didn't even attempt to lap, starting in last. And there's the compounds that everyone's used. You would imagine, looking at that it's probably not going to be wet in the race, because otherwise they would need 2 sets of wet tyres, and I think you only get 4 if you have a 50% race. So I wouldn't imagine guys would be using 3 sets of inters and not giving himself enough inters for the race, but I don't know. It does look very dry here though. It's cloudy but it's dry for the race. We're just waiting on everyone to load in, do their setups if they need to, sort out their strategy and fuel. Strategy here will just be a 1-stop soft medium, or if you're outside the top 10, medium soft. Actually, it would just be probably medium soft for most people because it was a wet quali. So I'd imagine that a lot of guys here will be choosing the medium soft. Maybe you'll see some people try and take advantage of that by switching it around, starting on the softs, trying to build a gap at the start of the race, but honestly I'm not entirely sure if that will really work. But maybe some of the guys, maybe 10th, 9th kind of area, might try and use the soft tyre to make a good start, make up some positions in the opening laps, and then just use the DRS trains to defend their position for the rest of the race. Could work. Of course, pitting on the softs you're going to get an undercut too, but you're going to lose the benefit of the DRS. So all kind of things to think about here, and actually it's looking like we have Salt in P2 opting for the softs, Rudy in P5 also opting for the softs. And that is it. So maybe Salt and Rudy here looking to get to the front of the field straight away, as we still have the glitched fastest lap. That's quite annoying really. But it shouldn't be too much of an issue in all honesty. Just trying to think, Salt will probably try and get into the lead and see if he can pull away from Tal Piz using the softer rubber. For Rudy though, he's probably going to have to try and use that to make up positions. He's got 3 guys ahead of him starting on a harder compound tyre, and he's got to really make his moves quickly if he wants to use the full advantage of those tyres. They only last about 9-10 laps, and probably for the last couple of laps in that stint the medium tyre is the better tyre, so you just gotta kind of think that he's hoping to get a good decent start and use those soft tyres as quickly as he can, and then maybe try the undercut and run his race from there on the medium tyre. Just rounding the final corner here. For once they're quite well behaved on the formation up. There is a bit of a gap between Rudy and Harm there, but it's not the biggest gap I've ever seen. In fact, Polehouse backing right off to the point where he's even out of position, as we've had a Mercedes stop on the pit entry. What's happening with Jim? He is last in the queue despite qualifying 9th and being 9th on the grid. There's Polehouse and Bread getting a bit cheeky there. So we're just going to wait on Jim to be the final car to form up onto the grid and get ready for some lights. If the game would give me a good view of them, that would be super nice. 5 red lights already. Had absolutely no clue of it, but it's lights out and looks like a good start from Salt. In all honesty, he's already up the inside, and there's a huge crash in the background. Immortal out of the race, virtual safety car, and I think Salt was just ahead there as the VSC came out, so he has taken the lead of this race. Rudy up to 4th place as well, and a penalty for Polehouse then, so maybe he was involved in that collision, or maybe he just got it for some kind of a collision under the VSC. But that was pretty much an instant VSC there, as Immortal didn't even make it to the first corner before he was in a wall, which is quite unfortunate for him. But Jim has actually lost 2 positions there, despite the guy who crashed being behind him. So yeah, I'm not sure what's happened to him there. Rudy leaves the session, so I think he's disconnected from the session. Hold on, I need to invite him. What's his? It's Rudy 1973, as I think the VSC is just about to finish. And this is going to be absolutely horrible for him, as he was trying to use that soft tyre to his advantage at the start here, but now has found himself disconnected, and he's only going to start losing positions. The VSC has now come in, so he's just going to lose positions everywhere with how slow the AI is, in all honesty, as DRS shouldn't be enabled. It's lap 2, not lap 3, but Harm now passing Rudy down to P8 already, so Tao Piz with a shocker of a start as well. He's down to P5 after being on pole. I'm not really sure what's happened to him there on the safety car restart, but maybe he just didn't have a good time with the Delta, but he's moving back past Jonah there for P4. It's glitched. Tao Piz is second. Salt leading the way. From Tao Piz, we've got an incident in the background. It's Harm, who's spun at turn 5. So I don't know if he was helped around there or if he did it on his own, but he is back down into last now as Rudy falls behind Jim and Polehouse and now Bread, and is way too far down the grid. Just going to try and see if I can send Rudy another invite. He said he didn't get the one I sent him. It's because he's appearing offline, I think. Which does sometimes get in the way, as Jim now losing the position to Bread, but he's going to fight it round the outside. It looks like Bread may be getting a corner cutting warning there, but ultimately loses out there on the outside after a small bit of contact. Doesn't look like any damage for the McLaren driver though. Did lose a lot of time as he lost out on the curb. Just looking now for who's really closest. It looks like Polehouse is the closest to the car ahead. Rally, he has DRS, of course. Rally having DRS and Scully though kind of eliminates any advantage he gets from that DRS, so it's the old story of the DRS trains once again. That completely destroys any kind of fun racing on this game. I hope it's changed. I honestly hope they change it, and to be honest. But who knows. Still looking like Rally and Polehouse really being the drivers, getting close to the guy in front. Sculzy, of course, not having DRS here, so he is under real threat from Rally. Rally not quite close enough here to make the move into turn 1 and 2. But if he stays close enough throughout the lap, he might get a chance next lap. Really, turn 1's the only proper overtaking spot here, unfortunately, but it is what it is. At least there is an overtaking spot as Harm finally gets past Rudy there, who is still yet to join the session. I've sent him 2 invites now, so I don't know what's going on with that. I don't want to miss too much of the action here for someone's internet, in all honesty. Polehouse, you can just see how close he's getting to Rally there, but it's just not enough, as Rally also has the benefit of DRS. But he's so much more aggressive over those curbs through Scari, and now as Rudy finally joins back into the session, might get a good run if he can just stay this close behind. He's less than 3/10 behind. If he uses his ERS right coming out of this corner, he could get the move done. Deploys it very, very early before they get anywhere near the DRS line. Is he going to drain? He's not going to drain his whole battery here, so it's not looking like he's really going to look for the move here on Rally. Rally looking to the inside of Sculzy, but he's just not close enough as he locks up into turn 1, but doesn't look like it was serious enough to give Polehouse a look there, as they go round for one more lap before there's really any proper chances of more overtaking. And oh, that's a huge I think he outbroke himself there, Polehouse, and he's completely missed part of the chicane, meaning that he nearly run into the back of Rally. I think he just about kept it safe though, so he should get away with it. Rally, just see he's closing in on Sculzy through these DRS straights, but he's just not close enough through the rest of the lap to use that DRS to his own advantage. And look how close Polehouse is getting now. Polehouse looking so close to the back of that racing point. It's a bit ridiculous considering that Racing Point's had DRS the whole way down the straight before. And going to exit the Parabolica now. Rally, however, looking much closer to Sculzy this time. Let's see if he can possibly get the move. His DRS line is there, he opens it. He's using the overtake, but he stops using it just so long before they get to the corner. It's almost like he's saving his ERS, but if he doesn't get the move done, what's he saving it for? But obviously Sculzy 2 seconds behind Jonas. Maybe Rally's thinking if he gets past the Ferrari, it will just come straight under threat from him again because he loses that DRS, which is of course an issue. Just come into the Lesmo there. It kind of looks weird as the cars almost slide through the first part of the Lesmo there. They don't look particularly planted at all, but it's just one of the weird things about this game where that is actually the correct line and the best way to do it, among a lot of the other strange stuff that this game has going on in it. But Rally really looking after his ERS here, probably, well, you'd imagine, being Monza, he's running quite a low downforce setup, so he's saving a lot of the ERS in these heavy braking zones, which Monza has quite a few of. Normally you would say last to first challenge for Rudy, but you don't know. I don't know if these DRS trains will kind of get in his way. I think unless there's a safety car, there's not much chance. Sculzy now under threat from Rally, and once again Rally choosing not to go for the move. So Sculzy keeping the same pace as Jonas, but unfortunately it's just not working out for him. As Rally is actually now looking at that, Bread pressuring Polehouse coming into the second chicane. Don't expect to move here, but he's going for it. He's going to be the inside for the second part of the chicane as they touch, and nearly goes round. He loses out to Jim there as well. I mean, It's not particularly the greatest place to go for an overtake, in all honesty, and just a small bit of contact there on exit so easily unsettles the car and can send it round, so he did quite well to save it there, I think. Quite interestingly out front here, Jonah getting very close to the back of Talpiz, looking to make it a 1-2 here for Haas, but of course Talpiz still just inside of the DRS range. He's not actually too far outside the slipstream range on Salt, so maybe those medium tyres starting to come into play here, but look how close Jonah is. Jonah, with that DRS assistance now, he's going to not even have to use that much overtaking. It's a fairly easy pass there on Talpiz as he brakes for turn 1, and how easy was that? He just got so close with Parabolica that there's nothing Talpiz could do to fight it, as Rudy sets the fastest lap of the race. And we now go back to see Sculzy has now been passed by Rally, so Rally finally able to get the move off, and now let's see if he can use the free air to build a gap between him and the two Ferraris and possibly even catch Jonas ahead, but I'm not sure. I have a feeling, as Polhouse gets himself another 3 seconds, that's his second penalty of the race. I have a feeling in terms of pit stops we'll see the soft tyre runners come in lap 9-10ish, and I think we'll probably see the medium runners come in about lap 17-18ish. So I'd keep an eye out for that in terms of pit windows, as that soft tyre pit window is coming up. But as you see, Rally just so close to breaking that DRS as Salt now loses out to Jonah, and it looks like it's just been a legitimate overtake into the Parabolica, so Jonah absolutely flying at the moment, getting past his teammate who is on the softer compound. But now Talpiz looking to do to Salt exactly what Jonah did to him a lap ago. Obviously the slipstream that Salt is getting from Jonah helping him here, and yeah, it was just enough to keep the Haas in second place. You can just see Talpiz was just unable to get close enough. His teammate, however, Bread, getting the move down the inside of Jim there into turn 1 and moves himself back up into P9 behind Polhouse, so he is in the same position once again. You kind of get the feeling that he's got a lot more pace in the locker. He just doesn't really know what to do inside of this DRS train, where he's got to really make a risky move if he wants to do anything, as there's a bit of gravel kicked up there, I'd assume from the McLaren there, maybe slowing him down a bit on exit. But as we cut back to the front here, Salt already dropping outside of the DRS range on his teammates, so no teammates helping each other here. Jonah is just trying to fly off into the distance as soon as he can. This could leave Salt vulnerable to an attack from Talpiz soon, but maybe just enough DRS being used by Salt to get the DRS there. He did get inside of the DRS range as they crossed the white line, which is the detection point there coming to Parabolica, so he will get the DRS this time round, but he's so far behind that it will probably not mean much. It will, however, protect him from Talpiz, as the window for the soft tyre runners to come in now opens. And we're just looking down the order to see who's getting close. Jonas, not really. Polhouse, not really. There's quite a few, you know, they just get closer and closer and closer, but it's just not close enough, and it's because of the strength of the DRS of the car ahead. And let's see now if Salt can hold on to, obviously I'm expecting Salt to pit at the end of this lap, but just if he can hold on to the DRS as we come through the Lesmos now. He is actually just outside of it, so his teammate has not helped him out at all here, as Talpiz getting so close here. Let's see if he can get anything done on the run up to Ascari. You would doubt it. He probably doesn't want to look for the move into Ascari, especially considering he probably knows that Salt's going to pit soon anyway off of those soft tyres, and Salt having a much better run through Ascari despite his tyres really being at the end of their life. So I'm not sure that weaving is there from Salt, not entirely sure how legal that is, but it is what it is. Salt now peeling into the pits. That will give Talpiz the DRS, but he's quite far behind Jonah here, so I don't think it'll even be enough for Talpiz to get inside of Jonah's DRS here, and Salt, I'd imagine, will fall all the way to the back of the grid here. as he is now in last, except for Rudy and Polhouse getting past his teammate Scusi there into turn 1. So Ferraris do switch after all that time, and maybe a bit of team orders going on there to make sure that Polhouse can close that gap back up to Rally, make sure he doesn't get away so these trains can stick together. It looks like Polhouse has used a lot of VRS there to try and close up to Rally. He has done so quite nicely. If he can get a good run through the second chicane, he should be in with a chance to get DRS down towards the scar, and he is close enough. 8 tenths at the moment, 7 tenths as they cross the detection point, so he has done what he needed to do. But Scusi now just about inside of his teammate's DRS, is under pressure from Bread, who of course has just been lurking in the background for a lot of this race so far, but you would imagine not really looking to try anything into Ascari. Rudy actually didn't pit there, so he is looking to go another lap on those soft tyres. Let's see if Scusi can just keep inside of the DRS range. He can. 8 tenths once again, as Polhouse already half a second behind Rally, so he is looking much faster than Jonas and even Sepsky here. So Polhouse maybe looking to make a charge onto the podium if he can get his strategy right, as the top two have really checked out of this race at the moment. But of course you don't discount Sol, who is of course on that different strategy from the rest of the field. Could make the undercut work out for him, and when they all pit could emerge in the lead, so that's definitely something to look out for, as Harm now passes Jim on the outside of the Curva Grande, and quite a nice move around the outside there. You usually don't find too many people getting the momentum out of turn 2 to really make that one work. The closest fight on track right now is this one with Bread and Scusi. However, you've got to imagine that with how Scusi is just hanging into his teammate's DRS there, with how slow Sepsky seems to be going, backing up this whole pack at the moment, it's really going to be kind of impossible for anyone here to make a move unless something happens towards the front of the train. But it's Jonas kind of barely hanging on to DRS here. It's about 8 tenths as they cross the detection point. Maybe using a bit of VRS just to make sure he gets it. So yeah, it's coming towards one of those boring points in a lot of these races where nothing much really happens because of all these DRS trains. We're going to ride on board with Bread here, see if he can get anything done. He's using all of that ERS, he's used pretty much all of his battery here. He's going to start derating around about now, looking to the inside as Scusi moves under braking there, which is not allowed, but not really necessary in that situation either. I think he didn't need to defend as Polhouse goes onto the grass. He's going to lose a lot of momentum there. He's going to lose position to Scusi and also to Bread, so poor traction coming out the corner, a bit of oversteering. He's gone on the grass. That has lost him at 2 positions. He's back down to 8th place, moving Scusi and Bread up a bit here as Scusi closes in on Rally to compensate for the time lost, as Jonas now slips outside of the range he needed to get DRS, so he will be under pressure from Rally very shortly. Now let's see if Rally can get a move on here as they come towards Ascari, see what the gap is as they break for Ascari. Actually looks like a lot of VRS being used by Jonas to try and get back inside that DRS range. Is it going to work out for him? He falls back outside the DRS through Ascari. It looks like he's not quite doing as well through there as his teammate. He can use all of his DRS down the straight. He is going to get back inside of the DRS range, but it's not by much, and that could still leave him under pressure from Rally. Look how close Rally is. He's well within slipstream range, which of course Jonas is currently missing. Let's see if he can get any kind of a charge on here. He's not looking too interested, to be honest, as Jonas used quite a bit of VRS coming out the parabolic there. Bread, in fact, looking to the outside of Scusi. Scusi defending to the inside. Bread looking for the better run out of turn 2. Let's see if it works out for him, as there's been a mistake there from Jonas. Jonas losing out to Rally, and probably not Scusi here, but let's see as Scusi now defends. He's going to go to the inside as they move back across and they touch, breaking at 100 metres. It's going to be Bread round the outside once again. This didn't work out for him last time. They've touched again, and Scusi is off into the gravel, and I wouldn't say that was Bread's fault, in all honesty. Racing incident, most likely, as Scusi just kind of understeered as they came towards the second part of the corner and lost the back end. That's quite unfortunate, fairly similar to the incident Vettel had here in 2018. as Polehouse now all over the back of Bread. Bread missing out on the DRS from Jonas after that move, and could find himself under some real trouble here, as Polehouse has a lot more ERS than he does currently. Maybe he'll just let Polehouse through for the minute, see if Polehouse can make any inroads in the car ahead, as Jonah pits here on lap 15 for a set of mediums, and everyone's coming into pits in fact. So everyone decided to use this opportunity to pit, kind of nullifying the race as it is at the moment. So our leader Tal Piz decided not to pit, and that could not have gone worse for him, as everyone else decides to pit, go for the undercut, which could definitely work. And let's see, where is Jonah going to come out in comparison to his teammate? His teammate just too far back, so the larger undercut that Salt tried before has not really worked out. He's still behind Jonah, and hopefully that's gonna keep this race interesting. But I have a feeling with the newer tyres going onto Jonah's car, which is also of a softer compound, that Salt might have just fallen out of contention in this race. He's already outside the DRS range on Jonah, and you've got to think that this probably isn't going quite as he planned. The gap seems to have gotten way bigger though. I don't know if everyone's been held in the pit lane, but the gaps have become massive, and I'm not really sure why. Is people serving penalties? But yeah, this was all a train before, and now it's not, as Polehouse, the only driver really within a second of anyone else, and used a bit of VRS to help him get there by the looks of it. Now down to 70% as we have Rally and Sepsky into the pits. Tal Piz continuing for another lap, very interestingly, so he's going to try and play it long and use the fresher rubber towards the end of the race to help him out, maybe thinking of just increasing the tyre delta here a bit so that he can make something work at the end of the race, as Polehouse now gets past Bread into turn 1, and I don't think Bread is going to fight that one too hard with the fair bit less ERS that he has. But he is looking close as Rudy gets passed by Jim through the curve of Grande. He's going to go to the inside here this time, so he chose the outside the last two times. He's gone for the inside here. He is left the room. He didn't really need to leave the room there, Polehouse, but he did leave it. There's been a yellow flag ahead, and it's a virtual safety car, which was probably perfect timing there for Polehouse as he gets the position. Or has he? Salt there in the wall on the right hand side. That looks quite far on, considering I think Polehouse has gotten a legal overtake by the game there, so I think he's been told to let Bread through potentially, but it looks like it sorted itself out. The safety car glitch is quite annoying, and where they were side by side like that, it's very easy to trigger. So quite interesting. Not sure what happened to Salt there, but it looked like maybe contact put him there, as he was quite far around the corner by the time he hit the wall. Tal Piz using the virtual safety car as his opportunity to pit still comes out behind Jonah. Tal Piz getting a drive through for speeding under VSC, and that has completely race. That will put him way down towards the back, probably in last place. So not a great day here for McLaren. Bread passing Polehouse with relative ease. Obviously DRS assisted down the main straight there, and unfortunately for him has 6 seconds to catch the next car and only 10 laps to do it. But of course he'll probably gain a free position from the Tal Piz drive through. And what that does mean is it's looking good for Jonah to get his second win of this race season, as of course he won in the opening round but has not really had the greatest season apart from that, and maybe could be on for a bit of a late charge to the championship. Of course Rudy outside any kind of decent position. He's down in 10th. He's only got 1 point to his name. Tal Piz receiving that drive through. That's going to put him outside the points most likely. And Bread, who I think is P3 in the championship, as Tal Piz now serves his drive through. It's going to be a long way down this pit lane for him. But interestingly, Sepsky has caught back up to Jonas, and Rally has caught back up to Sepsky. and Harm is slowly catching them as well, so maybe this train, which we've got oddly spread out, could be forming up again. And actually, Tal Piz hasn't lost nearly as much as I thought he would. He's actually coming out just in front of his teammate, but Polehouse going for the move. What's going to happen here? There's going to be 3 wide into turn 1. Polehouse going to have to back out. There's a big lock up there from Tal Piz, and he does hold on to the position with that late braking. It's now on Polehouse to see if he can get a run through the Curva Grande. Not really looking like it. No, definitely not going to happen here. So McLaren's running in 5th and 7th now. So not the greatest race for them as a constructor, but they are still beating their rivals Williams quite convincingly despite that. So really not the best race for anyone towards the top of the Drivers' Championship. I am going to check the standings now to see who else is involved in this fight really. As Polehouse and Bread about 4 tenths behind the car ahead respectively. Well, both, sorry. And kind of get the feeling that it's going to be another one of those DRS trains where it kind of looks more like a cycling race than a motorsport event. But Tal Piz is looking like he's getting a move on here, using a lot of that ERS to pull away from his teammate, and it does seem to be working at the moment. Polehouse, actually being in 4th place in this championship, is also behind this group. 5th place Harman down in 5th place in the championship, and after that it is Ladamala, who's not even here. Jonah down in 7th. So we have yellows, and that's for Rudy. Let's see what happens to him. He's just looking the wrong way at turn 2. I don't know if maybe that's a mistake from him or if he's had contact there, potentially with Sculzy. But that has just made a bad day for him, even worse as he rage quits and leaves the session. And Polehouse now looking close, just not quite close enough. In fact, someone who is looking close is Rally here, as he's right on the back of Sepsky, but Jonas in P2 there making a small mistake, and that's going to allow Sepsky to close right up, coming into the next braking zone for Parabolica, as Jonas setting the fastest lap of the race, way out in the lead as it stands. Now let's see, is Sepsky able to get a move ready here as he moves towards turn 1. It's quite far behind, not got much ERS to play with either. Not looking like it's going to happen in all honesty. Is Rally going to go for it? He brakes late, but it's just not quite enough. Just a little bit too far behind on this occasion. Oh, your PS4 shut down. Is it the overheating thing again? I see just how close Sepsky is getting to his teammate there through even one of the more tricky sections of the track. It's going to be a real test to see how close he can stay behind him through the Lesmos. Looking like the Dirty Head just getting to him a bit there, and he's lost a bit of time, but it's still only 3 tenths, so he's going to close up towards the Ascari chicane, and you've got to think that there might be a move coming here into turn 1 very shortly if it all goes right for him, as he gets a decent exit there. Not quite as good as his teammate unfortunately, but still certainly close enough to get a bit of slipstream. In fact, Rally looking very dangerous right behind him. Was a second up in qualifying, it gave you a warning. Yeah, it just sounds like a fairly unlucky race for you today, unfortunately, but to be honest, no one in the championship fight's doing particularly great today, so it shouldn't be too bad for you. But that does leave us with only 10 runners in this race then, so everyone who finishes this race will score a point. And there's a mistake there for Sepsky. Is that going to give Rally the chance he needs as Bread moves up into P6 as they head into turn 1? Not really the fighting they need to be doing. They need to be catching this train, but they are a long way behind. Can Sepsky defend here as Rally chooses to go to the inside? Sepsky just pushed him a little bit, but he does back out here, allowing Rally to take P3 away from him, and Harm getting himself a 3-second time penalty there, which might just be a bit of incentive for that train behind him to get a move on and close up with the remaining 6 laps in this race. Now let's see what Rally's able to do off the back of that move. Can he close up to Jonas just like Sepsky was doing before? as into a sky about 6/10 there, right on the edge of slipstream. Slipstream, you can really feel it about 6/10 behind, but it's a bit of a poor exit from Ascari there. He's going to use a bit of ERS to make up for it, but he is derating already down this penultimate straight. Not looking great for him in all honesty, as Jonah moves on to lap 22 of 27. And Jonas looking fairly comfortable here. 7/10 is plenty of room. He doesn't need to worry at all about that, doesn't need to use any ERS or even rich mix, just needs to carry on as he is and he'll be fine. As Rudy getting Polhouse getting very close to Tao Piz here, not quite close enough. Tao Piz using that DRS benefit that he's getting from his teammate. Just look at the ERS amounts in this train. Rudy really with the worst, but Tao Piz still with about 100% ERS. You've got to imagine that you save about 20% ERS a lap here. He should probably be using it out of places like turn 2 in the Parabolica, just to give him a bit of a boost really, but that's a 3-second time penalty there for Tao Piz as he cuts the second part of the second chicane, so he's probably regretting that one quite badly, because it means that even if he does get the move on Bread, he's got to make up 3 seconds if he wants any chance of getting that P6. And in all honesty, Bread I'm sure would be more focused on trying to catch Harm, who's hanging on to that DRS train. Of course Harm with a 3-second penalty of his own, but we move back towards that train now as we see Rally very close once again to Jonas, but again I don't think it's going to be enough in all honesty. Opens DRS there, he's going to have the slipstream, not using much ERS. He actually has a bit more than the driver in front, so he probably could afford to use it, but he wouldn't know that unfortunately, and once again stays behind as Tao Piz now makes the move with his teammate. Again, kind of that peloton kind of stuff going on in this race. They're just passing each other for the slipstream in DRS, which is boring. Really needs to change for next game, in all honesty. So looks like maybe a mistake there for Sepsky, because he's fallen quite far off the back of Rally, but Rally again all over the back of Jonas, so maybe just Rally having a better time of it in this group, as a Harm now closing in quite a bit on Sepsky as well, so someone in this train seems to have made some mistake, because Harm was nowhere near that close before, and they are losing time to Tao Piz in fact, so quite strange in all honesty what's going on here. Rally looking pretty close, about 3/10 behind as they go through the detection point, of course losing a bit under braking due to the dirty air. Now let's see, is he going to use that ERS? He is. He's activated it, not much of it though. He could really do with using a bit more than that if he wants to get the move done on Jonas. He's looking to the inside, but he's going to reach the braking zone very soon, and Jonas just able to brake that a little bit later due to the, obviously not having the DRS and the extra speed, and Rally once again not finding a way past, and maybe he's just hanging back waiting for the correct moment. Maybe he's going to make a move on to the penultimate or even final lap, just as a way to try and guarantee that he doesn't lose the space straight after, but it's quite a risky game to play as Harm does now pass Sepsky, so Sepsky really struggling in this train here, and Harm even looking like he might drop off the back of Rally there if he's not careful. He is just about 9/10 behind, so he will get the DRS here, but if he keeps losing out like this, he could find himself outside of the DRS, which would put him under a lot of pressure from Tao Piz, who's catching by about a second a lap at the moment. So yeah, you've really got to wonder what the plan is here for this group of cars. Again, 3/10 to come through the detection point for Rally, 4/10 behind his Harm, so Jonas being a bit of a bottleneck here in all honesty, and just slowing up the group in general. Rally now, can he go for the move into turn 1? He's got a better chance this time, looking to the inside, but again that braking zone looking like it might just turn up too early, and Rally noticeably lifting off there, so he does not want to go for the move yet. Gonna wait a bit longer before making that move. Just got to be careful that Harman doesn't take that opportunity to do something, as Bread and Polhaus battling there. Bread getting the better of the Ferrari driver for the minute, and quite fortunately for him, not quite losing the DRS to Talpiz, but if he's not careful, could lose it through the next section. He is just outside of the DRS range, so maybe that was Polhaus' plan. Maybe lose Bread a bit of time and use that to get the move done, but I'm not sure. I'm definitely thinking that Talpiz, if he just didn't have that penalty, would be able to catch Harm in this race. It really does seem that way at the moment. Harm actually getting very close to the back of Rally even closer to the back of Jonas once again. He could even make the move into Parabolica if he was brave enough. Definitely shouldn't, that would just end in disaster, but it was a tenth and a half as they crossed the detection point here, and it's going to be easily breezing past the Alfa Romeo here before they even reach the DRS point, so that's just how much he was holding back before. And now Harm might even get the move, but he's made contact. He's got to lock up just about sliding the car down into the corner, but he's now been pit again. That could hurt his traction, but he's gone on the outside. That is better overall for traction out of turn 2, and Jonas has to fall behind, so looking for from a 2-3 here for Alfa Romeo now to a 4-5. Of course Harm with that penalty, so they can probably finish 3-4, but yeah, you just got to wonder really what Harm's plan is here, considering he has that penalty, and he's now outside of DRS range on Rally, so he's going to become susceptible once again to Jonas, who could quite easily get past him back into turn 1 here, which will be on the final lap. So, and just look at how close Talpiz has gotten, 3 seconds. Harm gets himself another penalty that could be crucial, as that now puts him behind Bread in this race. Harm may be pushing too hard through this race to try and get the gap, and it's just not really worked out for him. 4.8 tenths now as they move their way onto the final lap. Is this going to be the last ditch moment for Jonas? He's using all of his ERS, going to open that DRS very shortly. Harm of course does not have the DRS, should be picking up a slight slipstream as Harm now derating. Is he going to go for the send into turn 1? He doesn't go for it. Locks up though, and so does Harm. Everyone locking up into turn 1 at the moment, but just not quite working out for Jonas there. He's going to have to stick behind, but I'm not sure that's going to bother him too much, because he does know that he's got the gap. Well, he's inside of 3 seconds, of course Harm with that 3-second time penalty. And now it'll all just be up to what Harm can do with the rest of this lap to see where he finishes in this race. Of course Sepsky and Jonas will most likely overtake him here on penalties, but can he get the gap to Bread? Currently looking at about 4.4 seconds between Bread and Sepsky, and 5.2 overall to Harm, so it's very, very close as Polhaus gets himself another penalty there. That's 9 seconds, not that it's going to matter too much. He's 30 seconds ahead of the next car as he starts sweeping straight there as Jonah crosses the line to win the Monza Grand Prix. Rally's going to come home in second here, but where is Harm going to finish? It's going to be Jonas in third, Sepsky in fourth. Where is Talpiz? Talpiz fifth, and Brett's going to cross the line just inside of Talpiz's penalty range, and Brett getting P5 then, ahead of Talpiz, who's in 6th, Harm in P7, Polhaus going to pretty confidently be in P8 there, with Jim P9 and Scorsese rounding out the top 10. Of course, Rudy, whose PS4 turned off due to overheating, is not technically in this race, but he will finish outside the points nonetheless, as Jim gets the fastest lap right at the end there to get himself an extra point with a 19.6, and Scorsese going to cross the line in the final points paying position. What a race that has been. Maybe not the most exciting in terms of on-track action, but definitely in terms of strategy and the penalties, where people are ending up, how the trains are going to form, where they're going to play out, just adding that extra bit of interesting element to that race. Probably not quite the kind of interesting you want from a league race. You don't really want to be wondering where are people going to finish due to penalties. You'd rather it be where are they going to finish on track, who's going to be able to get the overtakes done. But unfortunately, the current F1 2020 game just doesn't really allow for that. But Jonah, then, your winner here in Italy. Rally P2, Jonas P3, Sepsky P4, and Bread P5. So he's actually the best finisher out of the top guys in the championship at the moment, with Tao Piz, his teammate, P6, P7 for Harm, P8 for Polehouse, P9 for Jim, and Skulzy rounding out our finishers in the top 10. Rudy, unfortunately, not scoring any points here today. And Salt and Immortal did not finish. Salt, of course, after that crash out of the second Lesmo, and Immortal barely got off the line, didn't even get to turn 1, and he was in the wall, unfortunately for him. There's all the warnings if anyone wants something to get removed. But I'm just going to check the other streams, see if anyone else is still going. Tier 2 has finished. Tier 4, let's see what these guys are doing. Tier 4 are just watching the podium celebrations there, so yeah, doesn't look like I've got anywhere to send you, in all honesty, and that means that I'm going to wrap it up here. Well done, of course, to the podium finishers. I'm sure they're enjoying their race a bit more than some others, but hopefully you enjoyed this race. I definitely, maybe not for the on-track action, but for the penalties and the where's everyone going to finish. There's a bit of suspense behind it, so definitely an enjoyable-ish race. Yeah, unfortunately, we are in, let's see what track it is next week. A bit of a problem with this game where everyone's just kind of getting in trains. It's kind of difficult to overtake, and so the on-track action's not as good. And I would expect the on-track action to be even worse next week as we're going to Vietnam. So I think they put it on the calendar as kind of a farewell race, but I don't think anyone likes Vietnam, in all honesty. So come next week if you want to. If you're really, really excited for Vietnam, let me know. And make sure you check out the Tier 3, 5 and 6 streams, which will be taking place on Sunday, as well as the Sprint stream, which will be taking place on a Tuesday. Again, both of those being at 8 PM UK time, just like this one. Sprint actually is coming towards Vietnam and Bahrain short next week. So if you're at all interested in that, make sure you check it out. Apart from that, hopefully you'll have a very good evening, and goodbye.